Hey everyone, happy Valentine's Day. It is indeed February 14th, 2024. And, I wanted to come on here and talk about why I like certain ships, from certain shows and stuff. And I've of course probably talked about these a lot. And there's no doubt that everyone likes these ships as well, because it's just the unusualness about them, that even if you don't think they're official, or even if there are hints that, hey, there might be something there, it's still kind of interesting to look at them and say, yeah, that could work. That could work. So with that said, let's take a look at some of these ships, shall we? Now, if you don't see, the pictures kind of coinciding, with each other in the timestamps, I do apologize. That's what happens when you use things like Windows Movie Maker. But I'm going to try my best. Again, I do apologize if some of the images that I may use don't coincide. But with that said, let's get into the video, shall we? So let's talk about one of my personal favorites that I've been very adamant about, and I'm not the only one, surprisingly, and that's from the Scooby-Doo franchise, mostly in the early to mid-'80s, and that being Shaggy and Daphne. Now, there's no doubt that throughout the history of Scooby-Doo, it's always been associated that Daphne would be with Fred and Velma would be with Shaggy. But I think ever since they did the all-new Scooby-Doo Scrappy-Doo show and then converted it to the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries and then converted that into the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, that this pairing has been very popular with a lot of fans. I mean, when you look at some of the recent movies in the past decade, of course, that they've done, as direct-to-video, you can kind of see that even those at Warner Brothers, that worked on the show in the Hanna-Barbera division, kind of acknowledged that, yeah, this is a ship that fans like. I mean, let's not forget that one musical movie they did. They had that musical number at the beginning. Who popped up in the sunroof, or through the sunroof, to join Scooby and Shaggy singing? Daphne. And what do people like me do with that image, that screenshot? We edit out Scooby because we know, oh look, it's just Shaggy and Daphne. It's because of the fact that people love this ship. And again, those that work on the Scooby-Doo franchise, whether it's in animation or comic book form, acknowledge this as well. As a matter of fact, I don't know if it was a recent comic last year during Halloween or in previous years, but there was a Halloween-related variant cover for a Scooby-Doo comic by DC that had Shaggy dressed up as Daphne, and oh, by the way, Daphne dressed up as Shaggy. I mean, come on. There's just too much, evidence, too much Easter egging there, if you will, when it comes to, alluding to the fact that even those that are in charge of the franchise, those that write for the franchise, draw and, animate for the franchise, there's just too much evidence and Easter egging not to acknowledge that they know how popular this franchise is as well. I mean, look at Legend of the Phantasaur. Who helps Shaggy out? Daphne. It's just too much. It's just too much, if you will, evidence to not allude to the fact or acknowledge the fact that they know. And if they know, it makes you wonder, why don't they just go out and make it happen? Even if it's a direct-to-video movie that takes place in an alternate universe, like you have what's known as the Prime versions of the Mystery Inc. gang meet up with alternate versions of them, in another dimension. But in this dimension, instead of, Fred being with Daphne, it's Shaggy with Daphne. Kind of play on that. At least give the fans something. At least give the fans something. And then something else I want to point out too. I have the Hanna-Barbera Cartoons Encyclopedia by DK Books. I'm sure they've updated this, book as well. But they have this group image. And the only Scooby-Doo characters outside of Scooby and maybe Scrappy that are in there next to each other, the only Scooby-Doo characters are Shaggy and Daphne. So even when that image was made, and I'm sure that image was probably made in the early 80s, early to mid 80s, even they acknowledged that, yeah, this pairing might be one that fans like, if not do like. So to me, I sympathize with that, and I think a lot of us guys, at one time or another, a lot of us guys view ourselves in Shaggy's role. A lot of us look at Shaggy as being, the guy that, wants to be with the girl next door. And the girl next door in this case is Daphne. I mean, it's kind of like the Peter Parker MJ situation, right? Some interpretations of Spider-Man have Mary Jane right next door to him, literally as the girl next door. So it really makes you, sympathize, with Shaggy as you wanted to be that person in his place. And the same with Daphne. Maybe, because you are good looking and everything and attractive to other guys and maybe girls, maybe you feel more comfortable around somebody that's not so good looking or not so equally good looking and attractive. Maybe you're more comfortable around someone that's just average, like a Shaggy. Or someone that's weird and unique, like a Shaggy, And I think that's why fans like this dynamic, because Daphne feels like she'd be willing to go that route. She'd be willing to, be with someone like Shaggy, no matter what the situation, period. And again, this is why fans, even to this day, support this ship. And I think the louder this support gets, those that work on the shows and the movies and the comics start acknowledging it more and more and more. So hopefully maybe down the line it will result in something that fans might enjoy. Again, they could do something to where if they do a direct-to-video movie, maybe they do a comic story, if you will, that has them in an alternate universe, but instead of, like I said, Daphne being with Fred, she's with Shaggy. It would kind of give us something as a sort of official acknowledgement. But overall, I've always liked this ship because it's cute, it's adorable. And it's something I don't think any fans, especially when the franchise began in 1969, ever thought would happen because they were so accustomed to Shaggy being Shaggy being paired with Velma and Daphne with Fred. But what's interesting is some people point this out in various YouTube videos and maybe some here on Rumble or wherever else you're going to see and hear this. Some people do associate the fact that there are moments in the new Scooby-Doo movies, in the Scooby-Doo show, if you will, where it seems like maybe there's something there between Shaggy and Daphne. Or maybe the fact that at times Shaggy's the one that always has to pull Daphne away from a situation because she's not moving along with the rest of them. Or something like that. Point is, no matter how you might feel about it, a lot of fans, probably more so than any other ship I'm going to talk about here, a lot of fans would love to see this happen, love to see this become reality. And I think eventually it will, because the stronger the support gets, the more, Warner Brothers and the Hanna-Barbera divisions in the comics, at DC and animation, the more they will listen, the more they'll acknowledge it. But yeah, I just find it unique, cute, and adorable, and to me, very believable, very believable. But that's just my take on that ship. Now, we're going to get on to the next one. Another one of my favorites when it comes to, Valentine Day, ships, is one I talked about recently, too. And that, of course, is Dale and Gadget from Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, I know some people might say, well, there was nothing really officially made, Brian. And that's true. That is true. But, if we take a look, like I mentioned in that previous video, and I will link that here, if we look at all the moments, all the hints, all the Easter eggs in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, you cannot tell me without one shadow of a doubt, you cannot tell me that Disney wasn't planning to go in that direction. Because they were. In fact, I've said this on numerous occasions that I truly believe had Disney's Movie Tunes division been able to go, been able to go with what they originally planned, and that's do theatrical films based on some of the Disney Afternoon properties, I have no doubt, in my opinion, I have no doubt that they probably, had they been able to do a Rescue Ranger movie like they were planning, that they would have put this ship together officially in the movie. I have no doubt. I have no doubt in my opinion. And why do I feel that way? Because when you look at the series itself, there was just, like I said, there was just too much evidence. I mean, let's take a look at Catteries not included. The moment where Chip kind of got Gadget into a flirtatious mood, was he able to take advantage of it? No. Who did? Dale. Did Gadget object? No. She allowed it to happen. Why? Because I think she has more of an attraction, more of an affinity for Dale, if you catch my drift. More of an affinity for Dale, if you catch my drift. And what does he do? What does he do? He kisses her on the arm, she doesn't mind it, and he's about to kiss her right on the face or the cheek or something like that until Chip pulls him away. And was she stopping him? No. No, she wasn't. And then, let's take a look at Dale beside himself. Now, of course, there's that moment in there where she thinks it's the real Dale, but it's not the real Dale. She's not aware that it's a shape-shifting alien posing as Dale, because of his odd behavior of wanting to be clean and everything. And what does she do? She basically tells him, oh, we don't want you to overwork yourself and everything. And then she says, hey, come sit by me. And what kind of look does she give who she thinks is Dale at that time? I mean, come on. Even with a fake Dale, it's like too obvious. And then when they do get the real Dale back, she hugs him and very tightly, and she puts her leg up. Now, some might say, oh, that's just a common thing, right? Oh, no. Usually when that happens, that means there's something more between those characters, or there's something more affectionate than just friendship between them. Now, that's just my opinion, that's just my theory, but, it's obvious. Anytime you have a ship or a romance happen, that occurs. I mean, take a look at frickin' Chicken Little from Disney. One of the most underwhelming box office bombs. Take a look at Chicken Little, shall we? What happens there? Just when the world looks like it's about to end, he kisses Ugly Duckling, telling her he's always found her somewhat attractive or something like that. And what happens when he kisses her? Her leg goes up. I mean, come on, seriously. Seriously, what more evidence do you need? And again, that's just my theory. This is my theory, my opinion. But you have that. You have carpet snaggers. I mean, where he catches her after she loses her grip on a pearl necklace she's using as a rope to climb down because of the wind going from one carpet to another. And the way she says, golly, thanks, Dale. I mean, come on. And then again, if that's not enough, and as I've mentioned many times before, what about Double O Chipmunk? Double O Chipmunk, and even the episode before that, Song of the Nightingale. Come on, seriously. She could have chose Chip. She could have chose Monterey to be the co-test pilot, if you will. Or the co-test pilot with her. But who does she choose? Dale. Who does she hug at the end when she says, we're the ones that were crazy about you? Who does she hug? Dale. I mean, who's the one that's more upset about what happens to Dale in The Last Leprechaun, or whatever it's called? Gadget. Gadget's the one more upset. And if that's not enough, again, Double O Chipmunk. Gadget did not have to go out of her way the way she did to make him feel better. But she did. Even when she was a little upset that he dropped a smoke bomb in a workshop, basically smoking the entire headquarters, was she, was she mad at him like the rest were, or like Chip was? No. She actually appreciated and respects the fact that, oh, wait a minute, Dale's just as inventive and creative as I am. She was appreciative. She was respectful at the fact that, oh, Dale's just as inventive and creative as I am. Because he took an average tuxedo that he probably had and basically rigged it with all this, gadgetry that, she's known to do. She's known for. But yet here he is, Dale, the goofball, the comic relief, showing that, hey, he has an inventive side. And if that's not all, what does she do? What does she do after Dale, basically goes back into the house feeling, sorry for what he did, basically, acknowledging that with even sleep he'd messed that up. What does she do? She looks at his tuxedo, tears come out of her eyes, and she's like, if he wants to be a super spy, I'm going to help him. And I can tell you, boy, does she help him. Boy, does she go out of her way to help him. And she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to do that unless she could relate with him and unless there was something more there between them, if not more so now than ever, because they have something in common. And if that's not enough, let's take a RoboCat. RoboCat. Who's the one that's more supportive of Gadget wanting to give the mechanical robot cat, a second chance? At least an attempt to, be nice or something like that. Who's supportive of her? Dale. Who wants to help her out trying to restore him? Dale. I mean, come on. There's too much evidence. Too much. Too much evidence. And it's like, I just don't get why fans do not see that. I mean, obviously, again, going back to my theory, my speculation, back in the early 90s when the Movie Tunes division was planning to turn turn some of the Disney afternoon shows into theatrical films, including Rescue Rangers, obviously they saw it because I think that's what they were leading up to. But we never got it. We never got it. And then when you look at the Lonely Island Boys satire take, if you will, meta satire take on Rescue Rangers with their movie a couple years ago, which was good, obviously they knew about something between them because they made it obvious or hinted at the fact that these two, along with Zipper, kept a very close friendship, outside of the show. So it's obvious. It's obvious that even if they know it and they're willing to add that in, it's like, come on, seriously. Seriously, who are basically the deniers kidding? Who are the deniers kidding, okay? There's too much evidence to support the fact that it was going to happen. To support the fact that it was going to happen had things gone correctly, or at least happen in a way that would be unexpected. I mean, let's be honest. Too much evidence, too much moments. Well, they were all there. I mean, let's take a look at one thing I put up here on the YT. I put up on the YT on YouTube. I put on there a secret Pro and D. I put in a clip, about a 5-second clip, and I entitled it "A Pro D and G Moment." Now, why would I say it's a secret Pro and D and G moment? Because it's from the episode of Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. And what happens after Gadget rewires the metamorphosizer of Nimnals? What does she do? After she says she's done it and then says, that, the electronics were kind of simple, what happens? It lets off a spark and she jumps back. And who does she jump back into the arms of? Does she jump back into the arms of Chip? No. Does she jump back into the arms of, Monterey? No. She jumps into the arms of Dale. That's who she jumps into the arms of. And people have said that sometimes, a woman, no offense, all due respect, no offense, will jump into the arms of someone she feels more safe around. And apparently some people feel she feels more safe and secure around Dale. So it's obvious, in my opinion, just even with that they were hinting at this. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it, in my opinion. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, sure, because everybody could be wrong in their theories and opinions. And everybody has a right to their opinions and theories of who they want Gadget to be shipped with. I'm not denying that. But to me, and to many fans, this was the most obvious ship that Disney was going to go with. And whether people want to admit that or not, again, I suggest, if you want to take the time, go and look at the clues. Look at the clues that are out there. Look at what, Disney provided, with this show. And tell me they weren't planning to do that. Tell me they weren't planning to do something like that. But that's just my theory. That's just my thoughts. And overall, I like it. I just like the chemistry the characters have between each other. And that's just me. That's just me. I like the chemistry. I like how they work off each other. They complement each other. It's just so apparent that Disney wanted to do something more with them, in the future. They just never got the chance. But that's just my theory. That's just my theory. That's just my opinion. Now, with that said, let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about another favorite of mine, and this is obviously a favorite for a lot of folks, and that is Sonic and Sally. I mean, come on, it was obvious I was going to put them on here. And look, I get that a lot of fans, those that didn't really watch Satayam when it came out because they may have not been born at that time, and they're probably still catching up on it via Paramount Plus and here on YouTube, which, oh, by the way, one of the Sonic YouTube Wild Brain channels actually has upgraded most of the series, if not all of it, to 1080p. And somebody outside of that has also upconverted most of the series, if not all of the series, to 4K. And I highly suggest checking those out. And you can find them here on YouTube, or find them on YouTube, depending on where you watch this. But yeah, I know that some fans that were born after Satayam, and like I said, are catching up on it, and born after the comics by Archie were released, I understand that generation may not, find the Sonic and Sally dynamic, interesting or, believable because, it's not part of the games. And look, that's your opinion. That is your opinion, but let's be honest. Every franchise, when it begins, whether it's in comic books or even video games, they need iconic, romances. I mean, heck, Super Mario Brothers pretty much has that twice, if not triple, if you catch my drift. From, Mario and Peach to Luigi and Daisy to, heck, Yoshi and Birdo. So, so come on, seriously. You should understand that even with Sonic, he needs, a romance involved in the franchise. And there's no doubt romance has been involved in a major part of the franchise overall, not just with Sonic, but with a lot of characters. But with Sonic and Sally, to me, they set the standard. They set the standard from the very first issue of the Archie book, which started at the Sonic miniseries, issues 0 to 3. And then when the series got picked up as an ongoing series, it just grew and grew and grew. And the Satayam cartoon, of course, didn't falter from this either. I mean, you want to talk about moments in that show. It's like, yeah, just go from season 1 to season 2, look through the episodes, and yeah, you'll see moments. Believe me, you will see moments. Especially the ending, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I don't know what else I could say that I and others haven't said about it. It's like, this is a pairing that really plays off each other. I mean, if you want to have a believable romance, even in a show based on a video game with anthropomorphic characters, this is one of them. It is. I mean, she's the perfect foil for Sonic and vice versa. I mean, they play off each other very well. I mean, I look at Sonic and the Secret Scrolls as a good example. When, Sally's telling him, hey, if we would have fell off the cliff, we would have been flying. Or gone off the cliff, we would have been flying. And Sonic's like, yeah, you get a good point. But then he asks, where would you land? And then Sally's like, oh, good point. And then when she thanks him for, basically saving him, he plays off of her saying, for what? Because he's expecting her to thank him right away, but then she's like, trying to defer or trying to, make her, her point right, and then he points out, oh yeah, that's true. You're right in that aspect, but what about landing? So they play off each other very, very well, and I think that's why fans like them because, it's very believable. The chemistry is, very real. In a sense. Now, when it comes to the comics, yeah, the romance was there, and yeah, it had its ups and downs. It had its trials and errors. There's no doubt. I mean, 134 is something that a lot of fans, thankfully, are glad the soft retcon and reboot pretty much has erased from existence. Even though as fans, we pretty much have it physically in our hands to go back to and read almost anytime we want, if we want to. But yeah, a lot of fans are like, yep, this never happened now. This never happened. Thank God. But unfortunately, it also meant that, well, the relationship was kind of thrown out the window by Ian Flynn. Although a lot of fans feel that he could have done something there to kind of put them back together, even in the Soft Red kind of reboot. But it felt like he was leaning more towards Sally and Nicole, which, in today's day and age, honestly, whether you're a fan of LGBTQ or not, pretty much, is to be expected in these kind of, I guess you could say, environments. But outside of that, the chemistry between these two is just, unfathomable. It is just so, believable, so realistic, in my opinion. The banter they have off each other, it's just great. It's just really great. I mean, to me, one of the best moments, basically, is in Doomsday, where Sonic is about to take both Power Stones, and Sally wants to go with him, right? And Sonic's like, whoa, what's it? What's this? What's this we stuff? And she's like, because I'm going with you. And then when Sonic says, no, Sal, you're gonna, and then she hushes him. She puts her hand over his mouth and says, we. She emphasizes this. We are in this together. In other words, she's telling him that you and I are more than just friends. This chemistry this relationship between us is more than just a friendship. And that if you go and die, if you fail and die, then I want to be there with you. That moment right there, to me, told everything. That moment, to me, basically signified, how, real and how believable this, relationship was between the two, and why it became such a fan favorite. That moment right there. And it gets echoed, believe it or not, in 124. It does, in not 124, but in 125. It gets echoed there, where Sonic's about to go take off and try to deal with the quantum dial, or not quantum dial, but go take off and go to new Megalopolis or something like that, Robotropolis, and get into this Giga Prime that Robotnik Eggman has made to combat the Zorda, the alien Zorda, if you will, which is spelled Xoda, called Giga Prime, and she tells him, but just before he leaves, I want to go with you because I don't want to be, because if you fall in battle, I don't want to be anywhere else but by your side. So again, it's kind of echoed, very similarly in that issue, which I'm glad to see. I'm really glad to see. The overall aspect about this relationship is, it is so beloved by fans and even the writing staff that Ian Flynn himself, and this is a fact, Ian Flynn himself took his time, and give credit where it's due, took his time post Iron Dominion to put these two together. As I've said before, why do you think Sally was with Monkey Con? It wasn't because, it's going to be a permanent thing. No, it was a temporary thing done for the story, and also, as we found out, it was meant to help her kind of, in character, realize that, she has to give Sonic a second chance, that she still loves Sonic, and she has to see if he still feels the same way. Is there still something there to salvage after what happened in 134? So again, give Ian Flynn credit where it's due. He took his time post Iron Dominion arc from the end of 211, the last few pages, all the way up to 222 to make this happen. Give him credit there, even though he pretty much threw it away later on. And it's like, again, it makes you wonder, why did he even go and go to all that effort if he was going to do that? But even if Ian Flynn is willing to do that, then hey, it shows you that even he valued this relationship. He just didn't like the constant bickering between the Son Aim and Son Sal fans, overall. But in general, this is a very beloved relationship. It really is. And I guarantee you, if he is able, I guarantee you this, if he is able down the line, which I believe will be soon, we just don't know when, but I think it's going to be very, very soon, that if he's able to get these characters into IDW, whenever that might be, or at least her, I guarantee that he might try to romance those two together, because he's already teasing, because he and Evan Stanley and the other team of writers are teasing something between Sonic and Blaze. You already got a character, you've just introduced a character in there as the newest member of the Diamond Cutters in Lanolin that is basically very similar in, I guess you could say, attitude, as Sally to an extent. That even people are making that comparison, with videos and essays and all that, that I believe, in my opinion, that if he ever gets, her in there, along with the others, that he might try it. He might try a Sonic and Sally relationship, because hopefully enough time has passed to where he can make that a reality. But overall, in closing, there's nothing more to be said, about the ship as to why people love it. And it's just one of those relationships that, it takes the newer generation a lot of research and understanding in viewing and reading to understand, now we see where that previous generation is coming from with why behind this ship and why they like it. But yeah, that's all I can really say on it, guys. And let me know what your feelings are on it. And now on to the next one. Alright, so this next one I know might be controversial, but I've always been in favor of it since, the beginning. And that's Sunni Gummy and Cubby Gummy. Now let me explain. First of all, I understand a lot of folks may say that shouldn't be something that you ship. That they're practically siblings. They lived in the same glen for most of their lives. They're practically siblings. I get that. I really do. But when you really think about it, though, how many other stories have we had in constant animated and live-action shows and animated and live-action movies to where a potential couple grew up together under the same roof? How many? Plenty, right? Plenty. Probably more than we can name. And that's why I look at Cubby and Sunni, I'm thinking, well, yeah, they're portrayed like brother and sister, but what if they aged up? What if they got older? What would happen then? What would occur then? Because again, we don't know how old the characters are. I mean, apparently they're old enough to still want to play with each other, play capture the flag and do this and that. Even though Sunni tries to act, a little older, and everything, she tries to act a little older. It's a common thread. I mean, take a look at some of the shows live action wise, on television with young kids in the cast, as they grew up and everything. I mean, for example, I was just watching something on YouTube from E Retro Rerun or whatever they call it, from the True Hollywood Story where they were talking about TGIF. And they talked about, one of the first shows they talked about that anchored TGIF was Full House. And how the girls grew up on that show. One of them, of course, being Candace Cameron Bure's character, DJ. And when I looked at DJ, and then, of course, with Jodie Sweetin's character, Stephanie, and how they grew up and everything, they grew up, and there were times they tried to act older than what they were. They tried to act older than what they were. Now, true, they got to be like that, as time went on. So, credit where credit is due. But the truth is, there were times in the show where they tried to act older just to make themselves look older or look mature. And Sunni Gummy, in strange comparison, is kind of portrayed in that manner. That she might just be a few years older than Cubby, but she's trying to act older than what she is. And Cubby is the same way. Cubby at times, depending on the situation, will try to act more mature and older than what he is, and sometimes it goes to his head like it would go to her head. I mean, come on. When Zummy gave them that magic hat that let them turn into whoever they wanted to turn into, they had fun with it. They had fun. They didn't try to take it away from each other to be, hey, I'm going to be this way now and everything. No, they had fun. They got along. They got along. They played with each other. And to me, it's like, okay, I get it. People will say, well, that's what sibling-like characters do. That's true. That's true. But honestly, if you wanted to kind of really portray them as siblings, you would have her want to distance herself a little bit more from Cubby. But you didn't do that. You didn't do that. And just like Cubby, you gave her a human companion. In which, oh, by the way, this human companion, Calla, had a thing for Calvin, who was Cubby's best friend. And Calla was Sunni's best friend. So, you see what I'm getting at, guys? You see what I'm getting at? And because to me, I think honestly that if they wanted to, and I think, again, this is just me speculating, me theorizing, I think honestly Disney probably would have done it. I really do. I think Disney, had they continued the Gummy Bear series, maybe even did a movie as part of the Movie Tunes thing, like they were planning to do with a lot of the Disney afternoon shows, I think they would have aged these characters up, and they probably would have gone there. And to me, even though it's not as, hintable and Easter egged and subtle, very subtle, like let's say Gadget and Dale, in Rescue Rangers, I mean, it's obvious that they were planning to go in that direction, in my opinion, with those two. Even though it's not that in that same manner, let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest, you cannot deny that in this day and age, Disney would have done that. Even back then, Disney would have done that. You can't deny it. I mean, the chemistry is there. The groundwork, in my opinion, is set, to be built upon. The seeds have been planted to be fertilized on and to be watered and all of that. Everything was set in motion, in my opinion. It really was. Because you had the moments between them. I mean, what episodes outside of, a majority of them, but what episodes were, they not paired together? Even in the 11-minute minisodes, if you will, or mini-shorts, what stories did not have them paired together? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, what ones can you think of? I mean, what episodes that are memorable outside of the finale and even the first episode? What stories, minisode wise or full length wise, did not have them, together? I'm just, I'm just saying. It's like you can't think of one, right? You can't think of one. And in my opinion, the ingredients were there. Just like the right secret ingredients, if you will, that they say they have for gummy berry juice in the show and all that. To me, the secret ingredients were there. The ingredients were there for Valentine. Not Valentine, but for something to be built upon with these characters as they got older. I mean, this is why I think Gusto was brought in, because Gusto, is like Gusto is kind of like the middle ground. He understands where Cubby's coming from. He understands where Sunny's coming from. So he's kind of like that middle ground, in my opinion. That kind of gives the adults the understanding of why Sunny's acting this way, why Cubby's acting this way. It gives them that middle ground. It really does. It really does, in my opinion. And to me, I think if the idea was to probably, and again, I'm just speculating here, if the idea was to put these two together in the future, had they done a movie or whatever the case was, or even a new series, which I'm sure a lot of people would love to see, I think Gusto would be the de facto, what's the word I'm looking for? The de facto filter to make it happen. Like, he would be the one that would bridge the gap of, hey, you two obviously care about each other more than, you're letting on, and more than just as, some, siblings, because you're not, why not try to, work something out with each other? He could be that de facto filter, that de facto middle gummy, if you will, that's needed. But because even he, in my opinion, if they wanted to write into the story, would see, with an aged up Cubby and an aged up Sunny, that there's something there between them besides just a friendship or a near siblingship, if you will. But yeah, I think honestly, this is something that Disney could have, and I believe, I'm just theorizing and speculating, but I have a strong feeling they were planning to do. Because again, remember, they had plans to go with a movie tunes theatrical series of movies. They had that plan, in place. They had that plan in place, but they never got to see it get off the ground because of what happened with Treasure of the Lost Lamp. But in my opinion, had it done it, and in an alternate timeline universe probably did, I would not be surprised if maybe a Gummy Bear movie put in, aged up Sunny and Cubby, and they got together. Again, the key thing in my opinion is the fact that when you look at the fact that the two human friends had a thing for each other, it's like, yeah, who is Disney think they're kidding? If you're gonna, have them paired up as best friends with the two main human characters, and Kala and Calvin, then outside of the villain, then why not have them basically, then why not go the next step and have Cubby and Sunny together as they get older? I'm just saying. But to me, that's another pairing I feel potentially could have been, and I feel in my theories and speculation, Disney probably was going to do had they got the opportunity in the past, and they could probably still do here in the future. But what do you think? Because surprisingly, I'm not the only fan that believes that. Believe it or not, if you look at the fan art and everything out there. But enough for that one, because I do support it, and I suggest you look into what I'm talking about. Let's get on to our last one. So our last one we're going to talk about on this Valentine's Day is Bonkers and Fawn. And yes, this is from Disney's Bonkers cartoon, also from the He's Bonkers shorts on the Raw Tunage broadcast that was on CBS back in 1992, and also was reran on Toon Disney, and became compilation packages as part of the Bonkers show to fill out the 65 episode requirement. And I'm going to say this honestly, I think this is probably one of the cutest, most adorable romance ships, if you will, in any Disney series, any animation series, even today. Because when you think about it, here you have Bonkers, a very hyperactive, very goofy, lovable character. And here you have him attracted, I should say, in a very wild Tex Avery manner at times, to this girl, Fawn, who a lot of people have said, had her design pretty much inspired by not only Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but from other Disney classic females. Because you could see it too. You could see that her design is inspired not just by Jessica, but also by characters like, let's say, Aurora, Ariel, Belle, in a sense, just by, how she's, designed from head to toe, proportion-wise, and all that. And honestly, can you blame Bonkers for falling for a girl like that? I mean, she's sweet, she's kind, she will speak her mind, and we kind of got an example of that a little bit in New Partners on the Block. As well as we kind of got a little bit of a hint at her adventurous side in the Bonkers in Space short that was part of the He's Bonkers compilations on Raw Tunage, and of course, like I said, on the Bonkers series. But can you blame him though? Overall, can you honestly blame him? She's beautiful, she's sweet, she's kind. She wants to be there for her friends. I mean, she even tells Bonkers after they're fired, that they'll stand by him. They'll stand by him. No matter what. And even though she's the last one that gets toon-napped by Mr. Doodles in the pilot, going bonkers, After everyone is seemingly disappeared or pretty much walked away, she looks back, and if you slow it down a little bit, she has this look on her face like this, like she's got this look of anger, like that's about to be, or this look of disappointment or anger on her face, like what the hell are you guys doing? You abandoning our friend? Not realizing that they've been kidnapped, but she has that look on her face like she's not happy. And you can't blame her for feeling that way at first before she realizes what happens, because it happens to her. But but outside of that, though, you can't blame a character like Bonkers for wanting to be with her because of all that, and most importantly because she is very attractive. There's no doubt about it. I mean, a lot of people that do fan art of her try to give her more of not only a personality, because she had a personality. Let's be honest, she did. They just didn't really take advantage of it. But you can't blame people for wanting to expand on her and all that. And a lot of people feel that if Disney was to reboot Bonkers, and I've talked about this before as well, they could do a lot with her. They could do a lot more with her. And that's the one thing we've seen with the reboots by Disney, that they will take characters and do a lot more with these characters than initially was utilized in the original show. The show that's rebooted on or based off of. We saw that with Disney's DuckTales. We've seen that, somewhat with the Rescue Ranger movie, if you will, by Lonely Island Boys. They do a lot more. They do a lot more with the characters, and that's very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. But when I get down to it myself, I've always liked this kind of a ship. I really have, because again, going back to like Shaggy and Daphne, you can't blame Bonkers. He's in love with the girl next door. And it's kind of implied, if not indicated. It's implied, if not indicated, in the Miranda episodes, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, the majority of them, came out on Disney Channel as part of the spring sneak peek of the show, and then was, merged with the remaining ones that were finished up and ready for syndication that fall. It's pretty much indicated, if not hinted at, that all of them live within the same complex. All of them live within the same apartment complex. Bonkers is in one duplex, Jitters is another, Grumbles is another, and Fawn obviously is probably right next to Bonkers for all we know. Being his luck. But yeah, it's pretty much hinted that they all live in the same, in the same duplex, the same, the same housing complex, and which is good, which is pretty cool. But yeah, she's a good character, and like I said, her and Bonkers do work well together. They really do. They really do work well together, and you could tell that the chemistry, the romance, if you will, that they have between each other isn't just something portrayed in their shorts and everything. Like I said, it's portrayed outside of it. The way she wants to be with him to the end, or stand by him, no matter what they go through after being fired. The fact that, she's the first one to discover a message on one of the empty cans and everything. And the fact that she's the first one to fall apart for the fact that he screwed up the recipe. After Bonkers, sticks a fork in it, and now comes a can of peppers. It's just crazy. And then, of course, you have Casa Bonkers, which I liked. Casa Bonkers, in my opinion, is, one of those episodes to where, it's a play off Casablanca, there's no doubt, but to me, really is, an episode that, even though she was at the beginning and at the end, solidified the fact that these two are an item in, off cam, on camera and off camera. So I like that. I really did. And, obviously it also spilled over to the comics, like the Disney Adventure comics, which was a hybrid, honestly, of all the Bonkers, shows, of the Miranda episodes, the Lucky episodes. It was a blending, if you will, of all that, together. It was a blending overall, and a lot of people liked that. They really did. They really liked that blending, that mishmash, if you will. And one episode, and one story they did in the Disney Adventures, and I have it. I have that magazine. I do have that magazine somewhere. One mishmash that they did, basically, was Bonkers. It's called Nose on the Run or something like that. And there's a policeman's ball coming up, so who does Bonkers want to ask out? Fawn Deer. And he tries to act cool and everything, but she's more like, why are you acting like somebody you're not? If you're going to ask me out, just ask me out. And when he finally just is like himself, and she's, it says, okay, would you like to go? And she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's like, come on, seriously. Seriously, it's like, when you have even the comics mishmashing, both entities of Bonkers together, and one of the stories has the viewing of them together as well, it's like, what more can you say? What more can you say about this relationship? But it's a very cute and adorable one, and it's a cute and adorable to see that it's something that even is not. It's even something that's not something you just see on camera. In the continuity of Bonkers, He's Bonkers, the cartoon shorts that they did before he became a cop, but it's also something that translates over to off camera, basically behind the scenes in real life, if you will. So I love that. I really do love that. So, so to me, I think in closing, this being the last one I'm going to talk about here, this is one that if you haven't, watched Bonkers yet, I suggest you check it out. And in my honest opinion, here's what you do. You go to Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, check out Bonkers, check out Casa Bonkers, check out New Partners on the Block, and then look up the shorts as well. Look up the pilot. It's going to be in 2 parts. If you can find the uncut version somewhere, go ahead and do that. I got the uncut version, which I'm really happy about. But if you can just find it, look up that line, and watch the pilot and hear what she has to say there. You get the idea of why these, and again, go and also find the compilation episodes too. You'll see why everybody, like me, likes this, likes this pairing, and why they find it cute and adorable. Because of how it's, not just something in story that's seen on camera in the shorts, but it's also something that happens, off camera. And that's all I'm going to really say on it. So, that's about it. But I do recommend checking it out. And that's pretty much going to do it for this Valentine's Day video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know some people may not agree with some of the ships I've come up with, but I think in general, you might agree. Everybody has their opinion. Everybody has, the support, for certain ships and everything. But I do recommend checking them out and kind of seeing exactly what I'm talking about and others are talking about to kind of get the idea of, oh, we see where you're coming from deal. We see where you're coming from. We see what you're talking about. But anyway, though, guys, I hope you all have a good Valentine's Day. If not already had a good Valentine's Day, check me out at rumble.com/BW Roses. You can find me there at rumble.com. You can find me here on YouTube, of course, and everything. And again, I hope you guys all have a good Valentine's Day. Check out my Teespring store, too, for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. And until next time, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.